Happy Wednesday, YouTube. Happy Wednesday, everyone. And once again, I'd like to welcome Luke.
Hello.
Hello. And James.
Hello there, this is James Ujames1978.
And we kind of already have a discussion here. It's about that whole... It's a hashtag already, or it's several hashtags. I've made a video on it. James has made a video on it. The whole not all men thing. And we're taking this kind of from... In fact, I feel like I have enough to do a second video. And I've had some back and forth with James about this and had a few comment wars, and it spilled over on Facebook, and it's a bit of a... But anyway, but we're going to take it from... originating, I suppose, from a comment, I gathered, in a comment section from Luke on the subject of... I think James's video was why he doesn't say not all men or similar arguments. But anyway, so, Luke, I'll hand the floor over to you.
Absolutely. I'd like to say that generally speaking, I didn't disagree with what Ujames1978 was saying in his video, Why I Never Say Not All Men. But he made a specific argument that discriminating against men based on this correlation between increased risk of violence was fundamentally different than other forms of bigotry, and I'm already wording this to obviously suit the fact that I disagree with him. What I said is, I got a little bit technical. I wonder if I could generalize what I was saying, but it seemed to me that the argument that they are fundamentally different is flawed, because basically you're just saying that there is a group and it's all right to take precautions against the group because they're correlated with, either in reality or through your perception, a higher incidence of a dangerous or undesirable characteristic.
So, to refute that, to clarify my original argument, when a woman or anyone looks at a black man and thinks he's more likely to rob me, or looks at a Muslim man and thinks he's more likely to blow himself up, or looks at a dangerous-looking biker with tattoos and leather jacket and gold teeth or what have you, and says he's more likely to beat me up. Individuals are making judgments based on appearance. It is the most literal form of prejudice, judging people by superficial appearances. However, therefore, the thing which makes women's suspicion of and fear of men, in inverted commas, and I'll get to this point later, is that regardless of race, nationality, culture, regardless of size, regardless of how they look, regardless of any superficial issues, the risk is still perceived as being similar or the same unless you know them personally, unless you get to know them. And even then, there are statistics such as the fact that half of all women who are murdered by a current or former partner. So the threat which all women face from some men is not based on discrimination against any particular group. It's the most mild-mannered, tiny, polite, civil, friendliest-looking, blonde-haired, blue-eyed, white guy could slip Rohypnol into your drink. When a woman goes out on a date and is texting her friends to ensure that people know where they are, it's not because of the individual characteristics of the man. It is the fact that she is going out with a man. That when the person walking behind you late at night is a man, it doesn't matter if what they look like, etc. It is just the correlation, the fact that you don't know what this guy is doing. Is he just walking to the bus, or is he going to attack me? So, first of all, I hope I've now explained that there is a distinct difference, that in one case it is specifically discriminating against people based on physical characteristics, in the other that it's not knowing what a rapist looks like or a potential attacker looks like. It could be anyone. The fact that men are mostly singled out, that is largely a matter of statistics. Yes, a woman can be a predator. A woman could attack you. A woman could rape you out of the blue. But unless you are a lesbian yourself or bisexual yourself visiting lesbian nightclubs, that's a woman could slip Rohypnol into your drink, but unless you're going to lesbian bars or nightclubs, it's not as likely to be an issue.
Okay. Now, I was never saying that it was as likely to be an issue.
No, excuse me. I was just saying why men are more suspected. Why it is an issue of women being more afraid of men.
But the issue that I was trying to refute, though, was that taking precautions based on the assumption that because somebody belongs to a specific group is fundamentally the same argument as things that we decry as bigotry. And I just want to say this, is that if I were to select a randomly selected black individual from my culture, and I were to select a randomly selected white individual from my culture, I actually believe that the likelihood of a clash would be greater with the black individual. But that's not because he's black. There could be other contributing factors. Now, I think that it takes a racist to take that correlation and automatically assume that it's because they're black rather than, say, what their upbringing was or what their relative income is. Because I'm not sure that if I took somebody of comparable incomes and backgrounds and worldviews that happen to be two different races, that you could make any kind of a distinction.
Alex, the fundamental mistake you are making is, first of all, men are not any random group. You cannot compare Muslims as a group or black or African American men as a group to men. All men, everywhere. As I tried to explain in the previous statement, in my previous clarification, rebuttal, whatever term you wish to use, the possibility that the man you are with could slip a Rohypnol tab into your drink, or get violent if you reject him, or what have you, is not significantly greater or lesser if you're with a black man, a white man, a Muslim, any man you can imagine. Some people would be more trusted, some people would be less trusted. But if the person in question was a priest, a policeman, someone who people are raised to fundamentally trust the issue that you are a man, they are a woman, 90% of all violence committed against women is committed by men in romantic situations, that those precautions are still justified. And furthermore, this goes back to the issue which we were discussing on Monday, the entitlement, the overarching misogyny, the male privilege which exists, which I argue, and Thing Too Cool for You argues, were influential upon people like Elliot Rodger, were a factor in his massacre. The fact that, as I went on to explain in the video which you are critiquing, things like things like the fact that there is no part of the world, no culture, no civilization, no society in which a single woman doesn't have to pretend that she has a boyfriend just to get the man who won't stop harassing her to leave her alone. But as one comment pointed out, though, even when you tell some men that you have a boyfriend, making up a lie just to get him to leave you alone, they still persist until another man comes up and says, "Oi, hands off her." This sense that women are property, the fact that when a woman is harassed, many people will believe, if not outright insist, that she should take it as a compliment. The fact that if a woman is a victim of violence at the hands of men, many people will believe, if not outright insist, that, well, if only she'd just given him what he wanted. This is actually an argument that people have made in relation to Elliot Rodger, that if only one of the women with whom he was obsessed had fucked him, then 6 people would be alive right now. 7 if you include Elliot himself. But again, this rape prevention as well. Well, you're going out dressed in a short skirt. You're going to a club. Obviously, you want sex. So it's not a question of women discriminating against men because they're misandrists. This appears to be the argument that you are making, Luke. It is the fact that because as a society, men are effectively given free rein to view women as property, as commodities, as prizes to be won, as sex objects, that if she goes out to a bar wearing a short skirt and gets drunk, it's open season. Yes, it's obviously women are going to take precautions, and again, it is not discrimination against any one particular man or any one particular group. It is not being biased against Muslims because you saw Muslims commit a terrorist attack on the news. It is just the tragic result of the way that human society is across the entire world and has, for all intents and purposes, always been, for as long as human civilization has existed, the perception that men take sex and women give it.
Okay, just to clarify, James misspoke just now, and it sounded like he was addressing me. He was, of course, addressing Luke. I may or may not chip in at some point. However, what you've been hearing is an exchange between James and Luke, where I am now going to hand the floor over to Luke to respond, repudiate, whichever word we're using. So, Luke, shoot.
All right. Start with my repudiation. Or refudiation. Yeah, sorry. Anyways, It sounds like the implication that's being made here is that the greatest risk factor for violence and sexual assault towards women is the existence of men, which seems to me to be the very definition of misandry. Now, that would be a reasonable assertion to make if other factors didn't seem to play a role. I'm not familiar with any country in the world in which the rate of men is just radically reduced. Even in war-torn countries, I mean, it's not that big of a difference. However, I am familiar with various countries around the world that have radically different rates of violence towards women and sexual assaults, which I think lends to my notion that maybe there's some other factors at play here than what the gender of certain individuals is.
Excuse me, Luke, did you miss the entire final section of my previous statement in which I stated directly that no, it is not the existence of men. It is the culture existing worldwide in which men are perceived to take sex from women, in which women who go out wearing a short skirt or get drunk are perceived as fair game. Well, you didn't want... This is the argument made by Thunderfoot and others in response to the Teach Men Not to Rape hashtag, meme, whatever you want to call it. That, you wanted it, you got it. If you didn't want to be raped, you should have stayed at home like a good little girl. The attitude of society, the culture in which we live, in which women are viewed as property, in which, as you said at the end of Monday's statements a couple of nights ago, that there is an attitude in the part of America in which you live, in which if a man catches his wife cheating with another man, it is permissible, it is understood if he shoots both of them. It is not merely the existence of men. It is not misandry. It is not discriminating against men because they have a penis, because they have a Y chromosome. It is this society, this objectification of women, this commoditization of women, which has existed in one form or another for as long as human civilization itself.
And I do agree that aspect of culture is well, I think that it's a much bigger problem than men being in the culture. I'm saying that's my entire point, actually, is that it is a cultural problem, whether or not it's universal. I mean, I disagree that it is universal, but I think that it exists in different cultures to different extents. It seems to be better in Scandinavian countries, and socially conservative countries seem to be much worse.
Well, precisely because in Scandinavian countries where feminism is prevalent, and many of the leading government officials are feminists, although this results in several backwards and utterly failed policies, such as the Swedish model regarding pornography, the result is treating feminism, the radical notion that women are human beings. Cultures like Scandinavia, where men are taught that yes, women are autonomous individuals who can say no to sex, who aren't asking for it in inverted commas because they wore a short skirt, etc. all of the things which people like Thunderfoot argue against feminism is doing, and lower rates of violence and sexual assault and rape against women is the result. However, returning to my video, the fundamental argument was not about feminism or culture as a feminism or misandry or culture as a whole, excuse me. It was instead the fact that women take precautions when they meet men they do not know for the first time, or even beyond meeting them for the first time, perhaps into a relationship, for as long as it takes for them to feel safe. The fact is, as I pointed out before, even in countries with lower rates of sexual assault or violence against women, the fact remains that it exists. A woman meeting a man on the internet and arranging a blind date, arranging to meet him in a public place, texting her friends to let them know that she is okay, and keeping her hand over her drink to ensure that he doesn't have the opportunity to slip anything into her drink, is not misandry. It's simply taking precautions, because you are probably one of the 99.9% of men who would never do anything to attack or harm a woman, but that I can't take the chance that you might not be. That's all it is.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that it's misandry to take precautions. I'm saying that the reason that you take precautions is because we have flaws in our society,
Indeed.
Not because people are men.
Again, we fundamentally agree. So, to be honest, I can't understand why we're arguing. I've explained at length that it is this, if not universal, pervasive attitude that a man who gets a woman drunk and then rapes her.
Okay, can I chip in here?
Yes.
And I'll say, for me, this whole thing has been, since I've known about it, it's been a language thing. It's when somebody is saying men this, men X, Y, and Z, and they don't say some men, they don't specify. And that's where I'm very justified in simply saying, which does paraphrase what this would sum up very more succinctly, I think, no offence, Luke, earlier on. The simple phrase, profiling is profiling. There's an analogy going around. There's some variations of it, but the first one I saw was, imagine if, 1 in every 10 M&Ms were injected with poison, and you were offered a bowl of M&Ms, and the person offering you the bowl said, not all M&Ms are poisonous, would you reach in? And I immediately typed in the comments, this analogy doesn't work, or it doesn't prove the point you want it to. Because you can extend that to any social group, including not all Muslims are suicide bombers. And this is the issue I have. Hang on. Sorry?
No, go ahead.
The issue is profiling is profiling.
But the point, though, Alex, is that they're not profiling. We have no idea what a rapist looks like. We have no idea what a man who gets violent and shoots a woman because she refuses to have sex with him looks like.
We don't know what a Muslim looks like. We only think we do.
No, it's profiling to say we don't know what they look like, so let's assume that the men are the people we need to be afraid of. That's And I'm not even saying that you can't profile. I'm just saying that saying it's not profiling because you're sure that you're right doesn't make any sense.
I did also have a second point to come to, which is the assumption there's so many causes out there and so many kinds of people. If I go out into the world where I live, like, I've got to be careful because some black guy might mug you, or if a black guy comes up to you, tries to sell you drugs, or you're on the bus, look out for the Muslim with the bag. And actually, my friend Diamond, Ashley might remember, has had some self-important bitch come up to her demanding to see the inside of her bag. And I'm sorry, James, the point that I'm coming to here is that feminists, saying you're a feminist doesn't make you special. Feminism isn't the one special magic wand, and that's what gets me. And I'm sorry, having to explain people, Ashley's back, so welcome, Ashley. Hello.
Hi, guys.
And actually, before, if people could hold their thoughts, Ashley, you are a barmaid, and you've encountered some individuals in your time. You've been here half of this conversation, but what feelings do you have to share on this?
Well, I think I really appreciate where you're coming from, Alex, in that the whole profiling thing is, I lost my train of thought. What were you saying about the profiling thing?
Oh.
That you were arguing with James about, kind of.
That profiling is profiling, that taking precautions because a man might rape you is no different from the...
I didn't know. That's a straw man. I didn't say that of taking precautions.
Oh, wait, I remember what I was going to say. Oh, I remember. It was, Alex, you said that it's all about communication. Like, how we communicate the words or whatever. Like, when you throw out different things, it's going to seem like, something else, even though we're all wanting the same thing, even though we're all saying the same thing. It's just being articulated differently.
I think my point was more that I didn't, it's the way that things are phrased. If I were to say...
Right, that's what I'm... Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, because, especially with the theist-atheist debates, it's like with the video that I just made, it's like we all want the same thing. We're just wording it differently.
All of this, but it's still profiling, but it's still bigotry. Are we talking about semantics here? Because ultimately this was the main point of my video on which Luke originally posted his comment. Yes, it's unfair that a woman makes snap judgments about me based solely on my height and my gender, the fact that I'm walking behind her late at night. But how does saying it's feminists are feminists are profiling me, it's misandry or what have you, change that? We change it, as Luke pointed out, by following the policies of nations like Scandinavia in some respects, definitely not in others. For fuck's sake, the Swedish model is a disaster. But yes, creating a society in which women are not treated as property, a society in which women are not held responsible if they were raped whilst wearing a short skirt, a society in which rapists who videotaped their victim whilst they were semi-conscious are not regarded as the poor innocent boys whose promising football careers are now over when they are convicted to 1 year in a youth rehabilitation facility, referring to Steubenville specifically there. But ultimately, this was the point that I made in my video, that I do feel that this is at least part of the motivation which leads us to argue over semantics and communications. In many cases, not all cases, as I went to great effort to clarify in my video, when people say not all men or argue that being judged because you're a man is no different than being profiled because you're a Muslim, it basically comes down to, but I'm not a rapist, why are you picking on me? And this was my fundamental point, as I explained my personal experience throughout my video. Yes! It pisses me off immensely that I have to deliberately avoid liking or commenting on one of my very best friends' Facebook statuses and photos, etc., because she is an attractive young woman and her friends constantly bombard her with questions. Who is this creepy English guy? Do you know him? Has he asked you to send him photographs or what have you? It pisses me off that people make that judgment about me because I'm a man, but complaining about it isn't going to do any good.
Hey, can I jump in for just a minute?
Okay.
In the same measure, it's the same for women. It's the same for me. I have to be careful for certain things around men.
Yeah.
I mean, I mean, yeah, it's unfair for guys. Things are unfair for us, too, by the same exact measure, by the same token.
Having to be cautious.
Well, no, I don't even mean that. I mean just like the same thing we're talking about, just so that women feel more comfortable. I have to do things so that men feel more comfortable, because if I'm too nice, if I have too good of manners, then they think I'm coming on to them. If I'm not friendly enough, they think I'm standoffish or that I'm stuck up or that I'm friend zoning them. I can just go on and on and on about every scenario. All the scenarios are lose-lose.
Another example of, are you giving me sex or not giving me sex? Come on, woman, make up your mind.
It seems to me that there's a presumption in our culture that interact...
Sorry,
I'm sorry, Ashley, were you talking?
No, go ahead.
Okay. It seems to me that there's a presumption in our culture that the reason that men and women interact is for the purpose of procuring sex.
Yes.
And I think that if...
Absolutely. Go ahead.
If we could just get rid of that, I think we would be doing so much better. Men and women need to regard each other as equals. And I think that that is the one fundamental thing that Scandinavian countries seem to do better than us.
Exactly. That is
I think you've made a great point there. I think that is the bottom line.
Well,
is that we need to look at each other. We need to look at each other differently. I think we're both to blame on each side for that.
Feminism, the radical notion that women are human beings. What, you mean this woman wearing a short skirt and looking incredibly attractive is talking to me for some other reason than to procure sex? I might just like her. She might just like me as a friend, and no, that's not friend zoning. What madness is this?
I know. When I moved here, I mean, I've dated a few people here in town, since I've moved here to the Midwest. And there was literally a lot of talk when there were several guys who asked me out, and I turned them down. And there was this huge talk around town that, well, why doesn't she like me? What's wrong with me? She dated this guy. Why am I different? Why am I, she needs to give us all a chance. Is literally what they said. And
you must have moved to a really small town.
I did. It is a really small town. But that was the common attitude for most of the guys. And it still pervades now. They think that they should all just have a right to, why don't I like them? And it's not necessarily just for sex. I mean, they're lonely. They want company. They want a female company. And I constantly am saying to them, what you're saying to me is, I'm not good enough to just be your friend. I don't have a good enough personality alone without me, making out with you or doing anything sexual. Like, that's really all you want. That's what you're saying. And when I voice that to them, they're like, then they're like, oh, you're right, But they don't really get that. And I'm like, it's extremely offensive by saying that me standing alone as just your friend, I'm an awesome friend. Like, me as your friend is going to kick ass over me being your girlfriend. I'm going to be a way better friend than I would ever be as your girlfriend. Yeah. And friendship tends to last a lot longer. I just make all these points and they're like, oh, I didn't think about it like that.
Dare I raise the whole dance video issue, Alex?
I thought you already did.
No. That was separate. Just having this one issue, but yes, I have. Yes, but the fact, as Alex was saying, Luke again. I did it again there. But as Luke was saying, that any interaction between a man and a woman, or a man and a girl, is assumed to be sexual. That is the primary motivating cause. Yes. So, again, I just can't talk to people. I can't comment on people's videos because they are great dancers or because they are great musicians. I can't be friends with young women on Facebook because they are interesting, fun, and slightly insane. It has to be solely because I want to have sex with them. And yes, our society needs to be changed. It is not a question of women not discriminating against men, or which terms we use. Do we say all men, or some men, or not all men, or whatever? It's not about arguing on the internet. It is about following Scandinavia's example in this regard and accepting the radical notion that women are people. That yes, she's fucking gorgeous, but does she like Korean films? What is her favourite food? What is her interpretation of The Lord of the Rings? Does she have an opinion on that?
I think you're getting confused, James. It's does she like Doctor Who and does she like musicals?
Oh, does she like Benedict Cumberbatch? and bisexual woman who likes Benedict Cumberbatch and Karen Gillan.
and me and her can share them.
Exactly.
Sorry. I just wanted to say that I've actually been in this situation where somebody's husband insisted that their wife stop communicating with me because he was convinced that the only reason that we would be communicating is, I don't know, to pursue having an affair or something. What I think, though, that people don't realize when they acquiesce to that type of thinking, like it sounds like your friend did, it's just easier to tell you to bugger off than to tell her friends or whoever that they're wrong.
It's not even a question of telling me to bugger off. It's just asking me not to comment because she just can't keep telling it. I've known him for years. He's one of my best friends. We've supported each other on YouTube.
I'm so lucky in this respect. Even in real life, going back years, I don't get friend zoned. I get gay friend zoned. and I don't just mean that women implicitly trust me and find me non-threatening because they just assume it. I mean their boyfriends and husbands don't. My mate Kate and I have fallen asleep together on the sofa bed, watching videos or DVDs. And the husband, and this was a couple of years ago, but he'd just walk in and like, hello, got some coffee.
just to clarify, Alex, and I got your name right this time, amazingly. But
you mean me, not Luke.
Yes, you. Yes, we have to distinguish
the two different friend zones.
The different friend zones.
There's different levels of the friend zoning.
No, we have to distinguish actual friend zoning from the MRA pickup artist MGTOW misogynistic scum vision of friend zoning, which is women using men to get what they want.
To get what they want and then just not giving them anything that they want.
Exactly, using the promise of sex to get what they want and then denying them.
It seems like the MRAs don't realize that the very institutions that they're trying to defend are what enable women to be able to manipulate men in such a way.
Exactly. They have this bastardized idea that before evil feminism was created, women were all meek, submissive, humble servants who supported the men whilst they went on and did their great manly things. But then the evil feminists came along and taught women that, hey, yes, you can use the promise of sex to get what you want from men and then not give it to them. You can use marriage and divorce to screw over a man. Oh, let's not let men have a contraceptive pill because, no, if you get pregnant, then you can screw him for money. Because, yes, raising a child and being so poor that you need the father to pay child support that is the life, isn't it, Ashley? That is the lap of luxury.
Right, it doesn't get any better than that.
Slightly financially inconveniencing a man. Oh yes, that is the goal of every woman. Hail feminazis!
Every single woman, everywhere.
That is not my interpretation of history. I was under the impression that the reason that we made prostitution illegal was because women were, making a successful business model and giving men exactly what they wanted.
That is actual history, not MRA, bastardized, self-serving, anti-feminist history. You've got to distinguish between the two.
Touché.
Okay, so on that bombshell, I'm going to have closing thoughts and goodbyes. And can I just say, for my closing thoughts, that I definitely do see each of the three of you as sexual beings. And
I love honesty.
Sorry?
I love the honesty.
And Ashley, your turn.
I just want to let you know that all three of you are friend zoned. You're all in the friend zone now. I'm just kidding.
Well, considering that friend zone is the hideous and despicable state of in which a woman views you as a friend.
I know, that's a bad thing.
Exactly.
I'm an awesome friend. You better wish to be my friend, most of all.
She doesn't want to have sex with you, for fuck's sake.
And James, you gendered it, and yet when we were watching Les Miserables, you talked about how Marius friend-zoned Ebony.
Again, that was meant to be slightly ironic. But...
Oh, okay. Because can I also point out the term friend zone originally comes from Friends, and it was a conversation between Ross, peace be upon him, and Joey, peace be upon him, in the very first and therefore most holy episode. So, in fact, given that that is the true, pure origin of the term, infidels have been blaspheming. So, James.
Yes, I hope that all three of us agree on the fundamental issue and that, as you said, Alex, it is basically a matter of language and miscommunication. And I would say good night, but feminazis stole my ice cream.
And Luke.
Yeah, I never meant to imply that I disagreed with James's general view or video. It was pretty much just that one line, what he said.
Yeah.
And so I guess I could say good night, and I could probably be gay for you, Alex.
Oh, thank you. Well,
I want to say thank you for the entertainment on this one too. It jumped around from like heated debate to nonstop hilarity on this time around.
That's the true definition of friendship.
Indeed.
And won't the after show party be interesting?
No, Alex. No.
Just watch your drink, because I am a guy.
Yeah. I've got my hand over my glass here.
Oh, Lord.
And it's good night from me.